Hey folks, Orc's Breath here, back after far too long with some more Daggerfall Unity. Yeah, sorry I've been away for so long. I did not intend to be gone for, how long's it been? 4 months at time of recording? Meant to take like a 2-week break and that was it, but then life got in the way and I was kind of waiting for the new release of Daggerfall Unity and then just stuff, and I'm back now, that's what matters, and I am ready to play some Daggerfall. And yes, I am on the latest version of Daggerfall Unity with some really nice graphical updates. As you can see, I've got aspect ratio correction, we've got ambient occlusion, look at that, that just looks nice. The game just looks a whole lot prettier now. I mean, it's subtle, but it is really nice. And some other lighting effects and all that. It's, you could go onto the Daggerfall Unity, what is the website called? I don't remember the URL off the top of my head, but you can find it and see the full patch notes if you want to know what's going on there. Anyway. Oh, I also should mention, just further adding to the kind of complication of all this, this is actually take 3 of this episode. First time I've recorded it, my audio recording just wasn't, it wasn't recording my mic audio, so I had to redo it. And then the second time I ended up picking up a quest which it turns out is like super broken and was missing some key NPCs somehow, so I couldn't actually progress that, so 3rd time's the charm. Hopefully. I guess we'll see. Anyway, last time on Daggerfall Unity, ages ago, we received this letter. And yes, I've changed the font to the not high resolution font because it is harder on the eyes, but the high resolution font had an issue where in some like books and things, some lines of text would be overlapping and completely unreadable. So anyway, this is what I've got now. It's not ideal, but it's the best option at the moment. So let's read this letter. Dear Svanhildr, I heard about your accident at sea and feared the worst. Now that I have heard you're alive and well, I would like the opportunity to meet with you and discuss our beloved Emperor's mission in the Iliac Bay. Allow me to introduce myself. I am Lady Magnessen, the Emperor's agent in the court of Daggerfall. My position is not so official as an ambassador. None but the other agents of the Emperor know of my true affiliation. The Iliac Bay is rife with rebels against the Imperial throne, so your discretion is required. For the purpose of our meeting, I will take a room at an inn, the Queen's Woodchuck in Westbrone of Daggerfall, for a month. After that, I will no longer be available. I will expect you as soon as possible. Yours sincerely, Brisienna, Lady Magnessen. Well, I guess we're going to Westbrone then. And I'll make a travel save and travel to Westbrone. 3 days journey, easy enough. And let's put on a cloak, because it's kind of snowy. Westbrone looks like a pretty small town, so shouldn't be too difficult to find the place we're looking for. In fact, that inn over there, is that it? The Queen's Woodchuck, yes indeed. So Lady Magnessen should be in there. And hopefully she has some useful information about King Lysandos, or something like that. The latter, maybe. Ah, you must be Lady Magnessen. Ah, thank you for responding to my letter, Svanhildr. I am Lady Brisienna. Let me bring you to date on affairs. The spectre of King Lysandus haunts the street of Daggerfall at night. Trying to communicate with him is futile. He will occasionally moan the word vengeance, but that is the only coherent word I have ever heard him utter. If you are ever in Daggerfall, do not wander the city at night. You are certain to be attacked by his legion of ghosts. It would probably be more gainful to investigate those who might have wronged Lysandus to find the cause behind his torment. I do not know if the royal family of Daggerfall or another person or persons merit more suspicion. The major powers of the Bay, Sentinel, Wayrest, and Daggerfall, may be good places to start. In the matter of the letter, the Emperor's agent says that he was unable to hand-deliver it to the Queen because of the war. He hired a courier who supposedly delivered the letter in his stead. We do not even know the name of this courier. Obviously, there is little information of use, but it would be worthwhile to see whether the letter arrived at Castle Daggerfall at all. How you decide to do this is entirely your decision. I will contact you if any new information should surface. I am leaving Daggerfall soon. My position here has been compromised and my life is in danger. Do not mention my name in court, it is more likely to hurt than help. Good luck, and watch your back, Svanhildr. Good luck to you too, Lady Brisienna. And let's get some food. Leftovers, meh, better than nothing. So what have we learned? Basically nothing, unfortunately. The letter is kind of, don't have any leads there. The king, investigate the three major powers of the Bay. Probably starting with Daggerfall, because A, it's nearest, and B, it's where he's from, so yeah. Let's see if there's anything in the shop. Sturdy shelves cobbled together out of scrap lumber hold the shop wares. The items are sound and functional, but little more than that. No, nothing worthwhile. I think, before I actually go to Daggerfall City and start my investigations proper, I would like to go to the nearest town, which I guess is Tunbeth Hamlet, find a library, and do some research on the local politics, recent history, you know. See if I can find out some information about Lysandus or anything that might be relevant. So here we are in Tunbeth Hamlet. Persons of Mixers of Zen are to be detained upon sight by order of King Gothrid. I wonder what the Mixers of Zen did to piss off the king. Ah, you there, flute man. Well met, stranger. Well met. Could you tell me? Yes, how are you, Agrastir Masterheart? What is the best way to Lady Agrard's seminary? Go that way, south. Alright. South it is. I've got the dead jug. Not looking for a tavern right now, maybe later. This looks like a market. Or town square, or something. Ooh, Rodastaire's quality arms. That's another thing I need, is a better weapon. Steel just isn't gonna work against anything more threatening than wild animals. The shop is laid out in a practical and straightforward manner. All the items seem to be of adequate construction. Well, I'm not expecting to find any fancy Dwemer weapons or anything here, but it couldn't hurt to look. And indeed not, just steel. Iron and steel. Oh, is this? Nah, that's a bookshop. I want a library. Can't afford actually buying books, nor do I have the space in my pack to carry them around. The shop is better appointed than many. Its wares lie neatly on the shelves. Although not fit for a king, all are skillfully crafted. Ooh, dwarven cuirass? Definitely can't afford that. That'd be nice though. No new weapons, unfortunately. Excuse me. Alright, Svanhildr, you have 1 minute of my time. Well, could you use that 1 minute to direct me to Lady Agrard's seminary? Try that way south. Alright. Yes, I'm thinking we just read a couple books on local history, local politics. Ooh! Lady Agrard's seminary. Here we are. Ah, there's the books. And hello, Alabaster Yomston. See what we've got. A history of Daggerfall. Sounds a good place to start. There is sufficient archaeological evidence for the modern historian to believe that there has been some variety of human settlement in the city-state of Daggerfall starting at least 1,000 years before recorded history. The first use of the name Daggerfall to refer to the area around the current capital was most probably in the 246th year of the First Era. The north half of the Iliac Bay, in fact all of the current province of High Rock, was conquered by invading Nords who brought a rough sort of civilization with them. One of the first civilized acts of the Nords performed was a census, the so-called Book of Life. Listed on page 933 of the book is this entry. North of the highest bluffs, south of the moors, west of the hills, and east of the sea is called Daggerfall. 110 men, 93 women, 13 children under 8 years of age, 58 cows, 7 bulls, 63 chickens, 11 cocks, 38 hogs live here. Nearly 4,000 years after this census was taken, we can see that these 216 people have multiplied heartily. The last census, in the year 3rd Era 401, lists the population at over 11,000. It is always difficult to find an exact number, but the capital city of Daggerfall certainly outnumbers her rivals Sentinel and Wayrest. It has been a constant, if not actually helpful, amusement of historians to find the origin of place names. Daggerfall, by tradition, is said to refer to the knife the first chieftain threw to form the border of his lands, but there are other legends that may have equal validity. The Daggerfall entry from the Book of Life actually supports one theory about the reason for Daggerfall's longevity. The people were coastal fishermen, but they also found the land itself sufficiently rich to support raising livestock. This inclination of the early citizenry towards reinforcing their principal products brought stability to a fickle land. Daggerfall thrived during the years of the Skyrim occupancy. When the Wild Hunt killed King Borgas of Winterhold in First Era 369, the Northlands engaged in the War of Succession, and Skyrim, greatly weakened, lost her holdings in High Rock and Morrowind. The Iliac Bay had become important strategically, and Daggerfall began to expand her military. There were multiple opportunities for her to exercise this army and navy during the Direni conflicts with the force of the Alessian Reform. The Direni were native Bretons, and Bretons are hardly ever given to excessive religion. Daggerfall became a minor base of operations for the Direni and their allies. Raven Direni, the enchantress whose magic helped secure the final victory over the Elysians in the Glenumbra Moors, was one of the earliest occupants of Castle Daggerfall. Over the centuries that followed, the Direnis fell into obscurity, but Castle Daggerfall continued her growth. In First Era 609, King Thagore of Daggerfall defeated the army of Glenpoint and became the preeminent economic, cultural, and military force in southern High Rock, a position the kingdom has precariously kept ever since. Ironically, it was another successful military exercise 370 years later that ended Daggerfall's monopoly of bay trade, the annihilation of the Orcish capital Orsinium by a joint effort of Daggerfall, the new kingdom of Sentinel, and the now extinct Order of Dagna. The scattering of the orcs from southeastern High Rock made the river route to the bay more accessible. The tiny village of Wayrest grew like a flower that no longer feared the mow. In 20 years, Wayrest's trade profits equaled Daggerfall's. In 40 years, Wayrest was the acknowledged master of Iliac Bay trade. In 120 years, Wayrest became the Kingdom of Wayrest. The Kingdom of Sentinel did not exhibit Wayrest's aggrandizement during the First Era. The Redguards were warriors learning their ways of merchants, and their land was enemy enough to keep the population checked. Indeed, the number of people in all areas of the Iliac Bay was halved, once in the First Era by the Thracian Plague, once again by the War of Righteousness, and a third time by the invading Akaviri. If Daggerfall had not spent its first 1,000 years preparing for the battles of its next 1,000 years, it is indeed conceivable that the Iliac Bay today might be Akavirian. The Second Era, like the latter part of the First Era, is a tapestry of wars, insurrections, and plagues. Daggerfall, Sentinel, and Wayrest continued to expand and improve their military and economic positions in the bay. Daggerfall and Wayrest would transpose their positions as major trading center of the bay, and Daggerfall and Sentinel likewise bandied over which was the superior military power. The Iliac Bay has continued to hold an important position in the imperial government of the Third Era. Rarely allies, though combined armies in opposition to the Cameron usurper in the 3rd century of the Third Era is a notable exception, but not always enemies. Daggerfall, Sentinel, and Wayrest have weathered the storms of contention, plague, famine, and pestilence. The recent War of Betony was typical of Iliac Bay warfare, sincere, frighteningly violent, and peaceably resolved. Alright, so that is the history of Daggerfall. So what have we learned? We have learned Daggerfall, Wayrest, and Sentinel. Daggerfall is kind of the trading, economic power in the region, with Wayrest having a good bit of economic influence due to controlling the river access into the bay. And Sentinel and Daggerfall are both the military powers. Let's see if we can find something on maybe the more recent notes for Redguard history. We might want to look into that if we have time, but probably not until we actually need to go to Sentinel. The War of Betony. Let's see what this book has to say on the recent war. Could there be a better proof of the natural perversity of Bretons than their conduct before, during, and after what history will remember as the War of Betony? By the most depraved of motivations, the most despicable of tactics, and the most ungentlemanly of triumphs, the Kingdom of Daggerfall changed the nature of warfare in the Iliac Bay and perhaps over all of Tamriel. In Sentinel, we call the recent carnage the Siege of Betony, But as the book of history is writ by the victors, let us speak instead of the War of Betony. Well, this sounds completely unbiased so far, but I suppose hearing the Redguard perspective on the war would be just as insightful as hearing Breton. Redguards, by their nature, are a modest and practical people. We are not phlegmatic like the High Elves, nor cowardly like the Wood Elves and Khajiiti, but what would infuriate and enrage the swaggering, vainglorious Nords and Bretons would not merit a shrug from a Redguard. Had any Breton kingdom possessed the little island of Betony, it would have been covetously guarded. Betony's trade would have been seriously restricted, its religion subjugated, its people bound by active and constant pledges and duties of vassalage. But Betony was not a Breton dominion. Betony was a part of the kingdom of Sentinel. King Lysandus, may the Old Ones continue to torment his soul for his wickedness, saw the prosperous island which is closer to his land than to Sentinel, and his black heart turned to avarice. Through threats, lies, and acts of piracy, and finally invasion, Daggerfall illegally took possession of the island of Betony. His court sorceress, the Lady Medora, his enchantress mother, and other experienced counselors were horrified by the brutality of his campaign, and begged him to abandon his tyrannical act of war. Gradually, all dissenters were removed from the court. None but the ignorant and the warmongers remained. Our late King Cameron tried to employ civil diplomacy with Daggerfall, but in the end he made the former declaration of war. Daggerfall and Sentinel have fought many times in their 2,000 years of coexistence, and Cameron knew the black magic and espionage that the Bretons considered honest warfare. Never debasing the Sentinel character by duplicating the Breton villainy, Cameron knew best how to combat Lysandus. Lysandus's knavish battle tactics were even more perfidious than his ancestors, and the war continued to rage until it began to involve more than Sentinel and Daggerfall. Lord Graddock, ruler of Reichgrad Keep, acted as conciliator between Sentinel and Daggerfall, and eventually convinced both monarchs to meet and make peace. The ill-fated Treaty of Gradkeep began civilly. The terms of peace were discussed, agreed on, and set to paper. The terms were excessively generous. Cameron had agreed to give up some of his rights to Betony in order to placate the madness of Lysandus and bring peace back to the Iliac Bay. It was not until King Cameron read the treaty he was about to sign that he realized the outrageous perfidy of the Bretons. The treaty had actually been purposefully miswritten by the Daggerfall scribe in a desperate and ignominious attempt to trick Cameron into signing a contract different from the one to which he had agreed. The castle of Reichgrad Keep erupted in bloodbath, and the war continued. The Battle of Cringane Field was the tragic ending in the senseless war of attrition. The Cringane Field is located between the Yerth Burrowland and the Ravinian Forest, where the armies of Sentinel and Daggerfall respectively made camp after the massacre at Reichgrad Keep. As the battle began, Daggerfall proved that she had some foul Daedric magical tricks left by blinding the Redguard army with a wall of mist. Lysandus did not have the opportunity to gloat over his cousinage for long, for the sure arm of a Sentinel archer struck him in the throat, even through the thick, swirling fog. Lysandus' son, Gothrid, who had spent the battle in lugubrious relaxation, was crowned without ceremony and thereupon demanded a duel with King Cameron. Cameron was many years Gothrid's senior, and though a superior warrior, was exhausted from the endless warfare the boy king had been spared. Nevertheless, as a point of honor, our king agreed to the duel. The new king of Daggerfall, by dirty trick and black magic, managed to backstab our king before the duel ever began. Thus the victor of Cringane Field and the War of Betony was Daggerfall. Daggerfall's wickedness continued even after her inglorious victory. While the widow queen of Sentinel, Her Majesty Akorethi, mourned and tried to mend the shattered lands, Guthred demanded the Princess of Sentinel as a hostage of war. To save her homeland, the Princess Obki agreed to leave Sentinel and even marry the murderer of her father. But we true Red Guards of Sentinel know where her love and honor lies. The Queen of Daggerfall is the Princess of Sentinel first and foremost. Huh. So, Battle of Cringane Field is allegedly where Lysandus fell. And there was a magical fog over the battlefield. Now that's obvious propaganda is obvious, but just wondering if there are more books. I don't think so. Yeah, this is all just this guy's house. But if there is any truth to that Lysandus was using Daedric magics, could the fact that he is now a ghost be connected to that? You know, I've heard stories of Daedra, and I know that making deals with them never ends well. So, could his soul be bound up with a Daedric prince, perhaps? That might be worth looking into. Also, the Queen of Daggerfall is the Princess of Sentinel. That's interesting, for sure. But I think, with that information acquired, do we make our way to Daggerfall next? We're a bit short on gold and definitely could use a new weapon. But I do think we shall head for Daggerfall City in the next episode. Thank you all so much for watching. Click the like button if you liked the video, or click the dislike button if you didn't. If you want to see more Daggerfall Unity, go ahead and subscribe. I promise I am continuing the series. And yeah, y'all have a great day, and I will see you next time.